Hi, BookTube. I'm Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, or if this is your first time, welcome. I am a person who stays at home and works from home, and I am honestly experiencing a little bit of challenge the last few weeks in posting videos and in reading. So I did not post a video at all last week, and I felt it, and yet I just couldn't muster the energy and ability to do it. I think what's important for me and for all of us this time is to acknowledge what you can and can't do, what brings you joy and energy, and what drains you, and what you need to do to take care of yourself. And so last week I had to have some honest conversations with myself about what I really needed and wanted to do, what would really restore me. As we are in the next few weeks of staying at home and noticing what isn't going to happen for religious holidays, for example, for graduations, for birthdays, for family dinners, for whatever it might be in your home and mine, it's becoming fatiguing, and it is a difficult and sometimes frightening time. So I decided to take really super good care of myself and let go of those things that I just couldn't find the bandwidth to do. Having said that, I did read a couple of books last month. I did not have the level of focus that I typically do or the enjoyment in reading. It felt like it was more work than I wanted it to be. So I've kind of decided some ways that I can shift that for myself. But I did want to share with you today what I read in the month of March and what I hauled in the month of March. So this is a combined video because what I read is so short. So I read two books in the month of March, and let's take a look at what they are. So this one was on my TBR for March, as were many more books then got read. Blue Monday by Nikki French. This is a new author to me, and actually it is two authors. It is a combination husband and wife team who are writing this series. Their names are Nikki Gerard and Sean French, and they live in London and Suffolk, England. This is a mystery with a main sort of detective mystery solving character named Frida Klein and Detective Carlson, who partner together after Frida is in a therapy session. She's a psychotherapist, and she is in a therapy session with a man who's dreaming of a missing boy, and he wants a child desperately of his own, and the psychotherapist begins to think that maybe he's somehow involved in the disappearance of a little boy named Matthew. There's also another child disappearance that happened many, many years prior, and so this detective is trying to decide if these are somehow correlated because they're very similar, and he enlists the help of Frida Klein, and then she kind of carries on in ways that are very interesting and somewhat surprising. This was recommended to me by April at Getting Hygge with It. She did a video on this whole series and said how much she loved it, and I did really enjoy this book a lot. I gave it 4 stars, and I do plan to read the rest of these in the series. I'm about to try to figure out how to get those ordered once I get the bookshelves in place. They're still not done. That was a bit of a delay. Thanks, coronavirus. I mean, I don't know that he had it, but you know, we just had to be careful. Okay. The next book that I read was Voyager, which is book 3 in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. As you may have seen in other videos, if you're a regular viewer, this was a goal of mine this year to reread all of these in the year, and I finished book 3. I loved it a lot. I think I maybe loved it slightly more than the first time I read it because I looked on Goodreads, and I think the first time I gave it 4 stars, and this time I gave it 5. It is very detailed, but this one went a little faster for me than book 2, which is Dragonfly and Amber. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but the main start of this series is that a woman named Claire Randall is transported back in time to the 18th century through some stones that she comes across in in Scotland, and she meets a Highlander there, and things evolve, and this is the story of their lives and of all of the experiences that she has in that time travel. It's a pretty popular series, so a lot of you probably have seen it and read it. But I am going on to Drums of Autumn. I'm not going to, though, go through the rigors of the 200 pages a week. That became a little too much for my focus at the moment. I do a combination of listening and reading, ebook and physical book of these. These physical books are really heavy, so when you're in bed reading, they do kind of, if you fall asleep, they kind of hurt when they fall. So I am kind of doing a combination of reads for these, but I need a little bit of a break. And because they're so big, they were taking away from other kind of mood reading that I wanted to do. And I was finding it really hard to fit any other reading in last month. So it wasn't just necessarily the focus that I was having trouble with, and maybe my work ramped up a little bit during this time in different ways, which is good. It's a good problem to have for sure. But it was also that I was longing to kind of read something else and to take a break. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to read the next ones when I feel led to do that. And maybe I'll start to catch up again with my friends on the online reading group at some point. You just never know. Okay, so here's what I hauled this month. And so it was interesting. I only actually physically bought one of these books, so that's good, but there are 5 books that I hauled. So yeah, that's just, not a surprise. So the first one is The Last Tycoon by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I cannot honestly remember if I've read this book or not, but it was in my library as a book for sale, and so I picked it up. I think it was 50 cents. And this one is set in Hollywood, which I appreciate. A lot of F. Scott Fitzgerald's stories are pretty glitzy and glamour filled, and he did kind of lead that kind of life. But it's a story of Monroe Starr, who is actually based on another living character named Irving Thalberg. And he has a film empire, and he is trying to build into the film industry, as well as he falls in love with a woman, or tries to anyway. This is his last novel that he ever wrote, and I have never owned a copy of this that I recall. So I couldn't resist picking that up, as well as This Side of Paradise. And I cannot remember finishing this, but I think I read the cliff notes for this when I was taking a literature course in college. I'm pretty sure I didn't physically read it. Our assignments for that literature course were really robust, and so we were able to look at cliff notes for parts of it and read excerpts of the book. And so I think, as I recall, that's what I did. So This Side of Paradise is his first novel, so it's interesting that I bookended these without really meaning to, but they were the only ones that were available. So it's the Roaring 20s, flappers, men that are, slick haired and well dressed. And Armory Blaine is the main character, and he is kind of as I remember, he's kind of a inauthentic player, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. But it says he wrings the most out of life in the midst of the gayest and gaudiest spree in history. And I really love that time. And it's interesting to me because my parents were born in 1921 and 1922. So they were infants around the time that this is set. And it just is fascinating to me. So I definitely plan to reread that entire novel at some point. Then my sister-in-law sent a photo of a stack of books that she was unhauling and asked if there were any that I wanted. And so I chose an MC Beaton, which is called A Spoonful of Poison. If you've never read MC Beaton, these are murder mysteries as well. She is born in Scotland and lives between Paris and England at this point. And she's kind of, I don't know how to describe MC Beaton, but this one is more of a lighthearted mystery, I would say, and it follows Agatha Raisin's detective agency, and she is uncovering the truth between about there's a jam tasting booth. You can see there's that was folded inside. There's a little jar of jam, and there's a jam tasting booth, and someone is poisoned by the jam, and so she's going to solve the murder. And I will tell you that during times where I have a lot of trouble focusing, really lighthearted, cozy mysteries are usually the answer. It doesn't take a lot of thought on my part to read them. I don't have to keep characters straight. I'm not going to read the F. Scott Fitzgeralds now, because those are definitely classic literature, well written, no question, cause you to have to think things through a little bit more. MC Beaton might be the way to go this month. We'll see. And then I also got, and I need to pull the cover off of this, Every Breath You Take, which is a true crime story of obsession, revenge, and murder by Anne Rule, who is a very famous true crime novelist or nonfiction writer. Sorry, she's not a novelist. I think she has written a novel though. She lives in Seattle, which is where I have a lot of team members that work with me. I suspect this came from the book fair. It's not in great shape, this copy, but I definitely will read it. So this is the story of Alan Blackthorne. So there was a bunch of things that happened, and Sheila was murdered, her friend Sheila Blackthorne Belush, and she was murdered more than 10 years after she left this man, Blackthorne. And so this is the story of their marriage and what happened after. And yeah, it looks very interesting to me. And I do love true crime, and nonfiction sometimes gets me out of a slump too. So we'll see. And then finally, I purchased Time to Think by Nancy Klein, which is it's called Listening to Ignite the Human Mind. I remember mentioning last month that I purchased a book called Teaming, because we were going to do a book club for this company that I do some contract work for. And as we talked about it more, we considered doing the book club with this book. And so I got it. And right now the book club's kind of on hold. And so I really need to take a look at this and at least kind of skim it so that I can help decide with my co-book club's creator if this is the one that we want to choose for our coaches book club. This is really a book about coaching and how coaching gives you the space to really work out some of the things that you're challenged by, and how to think and listen deeply in the midst of decision making, and how to move yourself forward. So it really is a lot of tips, like begin with positive reality, identify assumptions and ask incisive questions, divide into thinking pairs if you're working together, give permission to tell the truth. It's a lot. It's not coaching per se, but it's very coach-like. And so I don't know if we're going to use this one or not, but I did pick it up and I got it on ebook bundle as well. So I think this is self-published. It is a personal development book. Nancy is from the UK. Octopus books in the UK as well as in the USA. I've never heard of octopus books. Okay, so that is my books that I read and the books that I hauled in the month of March. I will tell you that the TBR is made even more difficult because I cannot go back and find all of the books that I hauled in in April of last year, as I would for my back in time video. because they're all stacked up waiting to go into the bookshelves. So I'm having a little trouble figuring out how I'm going to film that and how I'm going to film a TBR at all and what my TBR might look like. So I'm going to try to muddle through it this week, and I'm going to try to, it's possible that I can sort some of those books and really take a look at filming some things. I have a little bit of time this week that I didn't have the last couple of weeks. And so I'm going to give it my best shot. I can't guarantee that I'll have tons of videos up in the near future, but you just never know. I think, again, that when we allow ourselves to be led by what we're feeling in the moment and what we feel like doing and what's lighting us up and what's nurturing our souls, then we're likely doing the thing that we're most meant to do. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you are well. I hope you are able to focus and read. If you need any help or resource, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I don't know all the answers, and I certainly don't know how fast people will get relief money or stimulus packages or any of those things. But what I do know is that sometimes we just need to be able to say how we're feeling and know that somebody out there is able to listen and hold us and support us in that moment, virtually, of course. And so I'm happy to do that in whatever way that I can. I appreciate all of you very much. Thanks for hanging in there during this challenging time, and I wish you a very, very happy reading day. Bye.